I would like to speak about creating prosperity in Latin America. And as we all know, this is a very complex subject, a challenge that we certainly take very seriously at the IDB, but one also has to approach it with a lot of humility. As most of you know, the last 3 years have been good years for Latin America, and certainly for Latin American economies. As I often remark when one looks at some of the negative news that come out of our region, I often say to people, we should concentrate more on the trend lines than on the headlines. And indeed, the region is experiencing the healthiest economic and dynamic growth since the 70s. Annual growth rates have close to an average of 5% since 2003, and are expected to reach over 4.5% this year. Average inflation is in the single digits and at a 4-year low. Budget deficits have been trimmed to levels lower than that of many industrialized countries. And debt levels, which used to be a curse for Latin America, have dropped from 72% of GDP in 2002 to about 53% of GDP in 2005. And unemployment is back to the pre-1997 crisis levels, and median wages have increased by 13% in real terms since 2002. So external factors like high commodity prices, strong global demand, and low international interest rates have played a key part in this recovery, as have also the sound economic management and prudent fiscal and monetary policies conducted by most governments throughout the region. But really, some of the unsung heroes of this recovery are the more than 30 million or so Latin American migrants living and working in the United States, in Europe, Japan, and other countries. Like so many diasporas before them, their influence is being increasingly felt at home. At the bank, at the IDB, we estimate that in 2005 alone, migrants, primarily from the United States, pumped about $53.6 billion into the economies of Latin America and the Caribbean. These flows equal to about 2.5% of the region's GDP. But to put it in another perspective, they are approximately the size of the annual production of the economies of Ecuador and Costa Rica combined, and represent about 20 times the level of US annual foreign aid to Latin America, and are more than 4 times the annual foreign direct investment by American companies in the region. With numbers like this, it is clear that remittances are transforming the daily lives of millions throughout the region, as they are doing throughout the world, as in 1 in every 10 people currently receive them. Our region has been historically characterized by boom and bust cycles and a pronounced volatility by which the gain of good years tend to be eroded away in the next slump. These fluctuations have been caused, or at least intensified, by the instability of capital flows to the region. Remittances, on the other hand, have proven to be remarkably stable, and certainly more so than exports, which vary commodity prices and foreign investment, which often swings with the whims of the market. While an economic downturn or a tightening of immigration in the United States and other countries could affect the volume of remittances, most studies suggest that they will continue to grow for the foreseeable future. Of course, remittances are not a silver bullet. Like any resource flow, their capacity to generate lasting impact will depend on the conditions of the environment into which they are absorbed. And they certainly don't come free. They often have substantial human, economic, and social costs, and immigration frequently deprives communities of their best talent and tears families apart. By stimulating consumption booms and rent-seeking remittances can have a negative effect on local development, as abundant natural resources sometimes have. Unlike commodity windfalls, however, remittances go directly to the people who know best what they need them for, involving upwards of 220 million individual transactions last year alone. In any case, the fact is that these flows are here to stay, and they derive from the autonomous decisions of millions of individuals who have every right to vote with their feet and seek a brighter future far from their homelands. and the demand for migrant labor, especially in non-industrialized countries, is on the rise. The Migration Policy Institute, for instance, estimates that currently in the US labor market, every additional job position created by the American economy going forward will have to be filled from the outside. The question with which we're grappling at the IDB, one which many countries in the region are increasingly asking, and which this audience should help address, is how to get more of a development bang from each remittance dollar. We at the IDB believe that the way to do this is not by a central mandate or a government imposition. These resources, after all, belong to those who work for them and their families, but rather by expanding opportunities for these people to leverage their remittances for their own personal benefit, which could translate into gains for all society. The IDB research estimates that about 20% of remittances to Latin America, or about $11 billion a year, are available for savings, housing, and other forms of investment, such as family-owned small businesses. The trouble is that most of these flows occur outside the financial system, and banking institutions in recipient countries have still to adequately develop savings, lending, and insurance instruments catered to lower-income citizens. It is commonly believed that the poor do not need banks because they don't have the means to save. Pilot cases in Mexico show that if individuals have access to formal banking mechanisms, they will save about 7% of their remittance income. If the financial system embraces this market, enhancing the borrowing, saving, and investing capacity of senders and recipients, it will multiply economic impact for millions of families.